How's it going, Ding Dongs? Welcome back to Ding Dong Drift. Today's video was supposed to be the mold making process of my sunroof delete panel. However, failure has struck once again. This is not the first time. This is not even the second time. This is now the third time. So let me show you what happened. So I drove the car to work today for CPR training. And when I came outside, this is what I was greeted with. The whole thing melted. Sagging. Top layer sagged into the infill, so this thing's done for. I'm gonna pull this out and I'm gonna tell you the changes I'm gonna make to it to make it even better. All right, so here we have version 2 of the sunroof. You remember version 1 used to be very thin. It didn't have these ridges. And it was very hard to align the pieces. And I had a bunch of spots where they was melted together, blah, blah, blah. Basically, it was a pain in the ass. So I made these ridges to allow to put pegs inside. So there's little 5mm pegs inside that aligns the pieces, which makes it much easier to assemble. However, all these hexagons, all these honeycomb pattern, I was getting a bit afraid of the carbon laying process because getting carbon around these sharp corners was going to be very difficult. And then I was going to Tyler's house and disaster struck. See that? It fell out of my freaking roof and it fell on my seat and it cracked. So I glued it back together a little bit. I'm gonna give this to Tyler. He can do with it what he wants. This is super strong and rigid because it has the thick fiberglass on the top. Let me show you what what happened to the new one. So the new one, say, had a very cool design. Same idea. These ridges hide the pegs. So I designed these ridges in a way that would still give it rigidity. You could see they even go up to the mounting points to give the, because this would be pretty flimsy if it was just a thin little piece like that. So this mounts actually to some bolts on the roof, on the roof skins. This was gonna be a bolt-in piece. I added these ridges everywhere to make it strong, and it is strong, it is stiff. I used the design to hide the pegs. So there's still pegs inside. It is now 10 pieces instead of 8 because these mounting points made it wider to fit in my bed. So I had to make it 3 pieces here and then 2 and 2 right here. So yeah, everything was going great. You could see I made it super duper shiny. I used 2K clear coat for the first time in my life, and this stuff is incredible. I am gonna be buying a spray gun pretty soon because this is awesome. And you see, I did not reinforce this piece. I'm putting just a little bit of my weight on it, and there it goes, it's split right there. I did not use fiberglass on this piece, and that is why this happened. There's no fiberglass on this. This is just 3D printed with epoxy on top. And it would have been fine if I went straight to making a mold out of this. However, oh, it's only 82 degrees today. It shouldn't be that bad, but it sat in my work parking lot for 5 hours. You could see the infill that I use, which is gyroid infill or gyroid infill. But for some reason, it did not happen to this piece. I'm not sure why. I must have used maybe more perimeters here, but every other piece and this piece also. I don't know why those did not melt. Super weird. You can see an exact line where I'm gonna make some more changes to the design. I realized when it's bolted in, if you just design this piece to fit perfectly along the roof, which it does, the middle will sag. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna make the piece preloaded. So it's gonna have a curvature like this, and then when you bolt it in, the middle will flex and have pressure applied to it from the mounting points. And then I also have to make these angles shallower here. This is really sharp and it's really hard to sand and it's really hard to polish. So I'm gonna make this wider. This will also strengthen these mounting points because they're pretty flimsy still, and I actually broke this one. See that? I had to JB weld this one a couple times because I'll be back in a couple days when this is finished and reprinted. So I'm gonna go redesign it, like I said. It's the beauty of making things that don't exist. All right, the sunroof is once again reprinted for the 4th time. It looks exactly the same here. There's some changes on the inside. I'll show you those once I have it all glued together. So right now it's in pieces, and the only thing glued is the pegs between the pieces. All the pieces are actually loose right now. So now, you saw I taped up the seams. I'm going to use 5-minute epoxy to glue everything together. I just need to make sure everything is where I want it. That's what this is for. So this is pushing up on pieces of foam so that this edge right here is where I want it, and I want it to have the correct curve. this. I already had my mask and gloves on and the epoxy mixed up, so I didn't want to undo all that so I could grab the camera. So I put a thin layer of epoxy. I mostly did it to fill in these larger gaps. You see right here is a big one. So once this cures overnight, I will pull it off the roof. We'll epoxy the underside and then start sanding stuff. All right, it's the next day. The sunroof is fully cured. It's nice and hard now. Shouldn't have any more flex or anything in it. So I'm gonna pull it out and set it on the table, and we can start epoxying this thing even more to make it even more rigid, and then start smoothing it out. All right, I got the sunroof out without any drama. Nothing broke, and looks like it's holding its shape nicely. It's not bending, it's not creaking or anything. I think I'm gonna do one thick coat. I'm gonna make a dam right here, because what happened was the epoxy I kept adding epoxy here and it kept draining out the side. You see it drained out right here. That's what the cracking noise when I was removing it was, the excess epoxy right here. It's super thick. So I'm gonna make a dam right here. When I do another layer of epoxy, well, first I gotta sand this a little bit just to give it a rough surface so epoxy sticks well. You don't wanna just layer epoxy on top of epoxy when it's cured. You can when epoxy hasn't cured yet. When it's sticky and doesn't leave anything on your finger, you can add a second layer. But once it goes beyond that, and once it gets the amine blush, you see this? Got this like greasy surface on it. If you put more epoxy on this, it's just gonna peel right off. So the reason I did it this way, I should probably say, the first time I did this, I glued the pieces together out of the car. And once I put it in the car, there were some issues with it flexing certain directions. So like the middle was too low, so I left it in the sun and put pressure underneath it to get it to stick back up. If it got hot again, it would sag back down. So this time I put everything in the car without any of it being glued together. Just the pegs are glued in. And then, as you saw, taped it up so that it was fitting perfectly. And then I glued it. So I think this is the better way to do it. If you're gonna print this yourself, I would recommend it that way. Get it fully assembled, get it in the car, and then glue it. You'll get a much better fit. All right, so the top side is all coated. There's still some gaps, but that's fine. I'll fill those in later. So now I sanded the entire bottom side and I got rid of all the, overflow, the epoxy that flowed through the cracks. Should be ready to coat on this side. Let's mix up some epoxy and get this thing coated. All right, so the top I only did one coat because it's flat, but since we have a lot of angles here, I'm gonna do 2 coats on the bottom. And the way you know when a second coat is ready is if you touch it and it's tacky, but it doesn't leave anything on your hand. When it's tacky like that, you're ready to do a second coat of epoxy. So I'm gonna mix it up, lay it on. as you guys can see, the clear coat is finished. I used 2K clear coat this time because it seems to work way better, and it's easier to wet sand, easier to polish, and the finish is just way better. It's also, when I do the mold process, it shouldn't etch into it as much. It'd be a lot easier to release. I used 2 cans, which is about 50 bucks, so I need to go get myself a spray gun because yeah, buying these cans is expensive. So I'm gonna let this dry here for the whole day. It's like 3 o'clock right now. Just let this hang here for, I don't know, probably until tomorrow. I'll just keep it hanging. There's no chance of rain in the forecast, so I'm just gonna let it sit and dry. It'll be nice and hard, and once it's hardened completely for 2 days or so, I'll bring it inside, wet sand it, polish it, and we'll be ready for the mold. In other news, it's freaking cicada season. Look at how many there are, dude. So in Illinois, we're supposed to be having one of the largest broods of these things, and there are so freaking many of them all over the tree. They're actually starting to fall off already, so look at them, dude. They're freaking everywhere. Crazy loud once they start mating. Yeah, they're gonna go fly around to go to the top of a tree somewhere. Holy shit, look at all those shells, look at it on the floor. It's crazy. So if you're not aware, these are cicadas. They come out, yeah, if you're not aware, those are cicadas, and they come out of the ground at different intervals. One brood I hear, they call them broods. One of them is a 17-year brood, I think, so they're underground for 17 years. And then the other one I think is 14 years? Not sure. Sometimes they line up where multiple broods come out at once, and this is one of those years, and there's gonna be an absolute shitload of them, and they make this loud screeching noise to mate. And then once they mate, the females lay their eggs in the tree, they hatch, then the larvae feed underground, I don't know how long, and then they crawl out of the ground, crawl under the tree. Their body hardens up, they molt out of their body, so they come out of their body, they look like pale white. And then once they harden up and get their full color and everything, they fly to the tops of trees and then start screeching. So probably next week I'll have a video of them being loud as hell. And there's like millions of them in all the trees. So if you don't know about cicadas, and a lot of people, like on Instagram I was posting pictures, a lot of people don't know what cicadas are, which is surprising. I thought people thought it was a common knowledge thing, but I guess it's only in like the Midwest to South. Yeah, pretty interesting life cycle for an insect. All right, the paint has cured overnight and it looks damn good already, but it is gonna get a wet sanding now. So to wet sand, I'm gonna start with 800 and then go to 1000, 1200, and 1500. 1500 should be plenty for the cutting compound to polish it up and make it shiny. So let's get started. I'm gonna start with the top because it's nice and easy, and I can use this on the orbital. Hopefully wet sanding with orbital won't ruin it. Should be fine, I think. So that should be a quick job of this, and then use these on the little block. As you guys can see, the sunroof turned out pretty good, pretty shiny. The first one I made also, I made that one off camera. That one turned out pretty decent as well, but I left it out in the sun and it melted. So here we are with the second one, which is even better this time. It's less wavy, it's more flat, it fits better, and yeah, it's just better overall. So if you want to buy this, you can buy this file on my website. So yeah, you can buy this file on the website and make your own sunroof, but I do recommend adding a layer of fiberglass. There's full instructions in the product description. I'll have that in the link in the video description, so you can go check that out if you would like to purchase it. It's only 20 bucks. You can just download the file, print it out yourself, use whatever filament you want, and have a full bolt-in sunroof delete. So that's gonna wrap up this video, ding dongs. 80% of people watching these videos are not subscribed, so if you're one of them, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel out. I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers before the middle of July. Pretty big goal, but I think we can achieve it. If you would like to see the videos early, you can become a channel member for only $3 a month. I will be adding more perks eventually once more people actually join. In the next video, I'm going to be making a mold of this. I have all the materials now. I think I know what I'm gonna be doing, so make sure you subscribe, you don't miss that, because the mold process is gonna be very interesting, and hopefully we'll be successful, unlike last time. Once I'm successful with this, we'll have another shot at the hood. All right, well, that's gonna be it for this one, ding dongs. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out, stay sweet, and I'll see you guys next week.
America, America. Do you have your passport?